Here we go! 1, 2.
For years now, the lovable minions have been all over the place, for better or for worse. And as cringy as they can be, you have to admit, they can be charming at times. But have you ever stopped to wonder about the origins of these yellow creatures? Or the deeper meaning behind their behavior and motivations? I mean, probably not, but we're still gonna make this video. We'll be diving headfirst into the world of Illumination's Minions, exploring the most fascinating and mind-bending theories that surround these beloved/hated characters. So sit back, grab some bananas, and join us as we separate these theories from BS to truth bombs. Let's start with our first category. These theories have so many holes that they can't possibly be true, they lack evidence, or they've been confirmed false by the creators. These theories are BS. Let's start with the true origins of the Minions. There's a fascinating theory out there about the origins of these beloved yellow creatures. According to this theory by Reddit user GingerSnap1138, the Minions were not just a creation of the brilliant supervillain Gru, but instead had a much darker origin story. The theory suggests that Gru was a simple scientist, a kind, single father who adored his 3 daughters more than anything else in the world. Tragically, his daughters were killed in a senseless act of violence, and Gru's mind snapped. He threw himself into his work, determined to bring his daughters back to life. Using his scientific knowledge, Gru managed to unlock the secrets of human cloning and successfully cloned his beloved daughters. However, the clones began to degrade and transform into hideous yellow creatures with bulging eyes and tight yellow skin. Unable to accept that these monstrous creatures were his daughters, Gru convinced himself that they were his loyal minions, created to serve him in his quest for world domination. In his delusions, Gru saw himself as the greatest supervillain of all time and reveled in the control he had over these strange, obedient creatures.
Big Boss!
As the theory goes, this is why Gru's world is so exaggerated and cartoonish. It's also why the minions never seem to age, and why they share similar height ratios to Gru's 3 daughters. And perhaps more disturbingly, it's why the Despicable Me franchise has such a heavy, unsettling feeling of dread and sorrow. While this theory may seem like a dark and twisted take on the beloved franchise, it's hard to deny that it's more than a bit far-fetched. So we have to mark this theory as BS. And don't the Minions movies completely debunk this theory? Moving on from the BS, these theories still have a lot of problems. Not enough to say that they're completely debunked, but still, these theories are full of holes. Is Gru the most evil guy ever? Well, let's talk about a theory that's been going around about the villainous character Gru from the Despicable Me franchise. According to this theory, Gru joins forces with the cute little yellow creatures who we know always follow the evilest villains around. So, this would mean that Gru is even eviler than some pretty notorious figures like Pol Pot and Saddam Hussein. This theory, presented by Reddit user Ashy Knees, is based on the idea that the Minions movie is set in 1968, during the height of the Cold War. At that time, the USSR was a pretty big threat to the world, but apparently Gru was even more villainous than them. And since Gru had control of the Minions during the time of Pol Pot's genocide in the mid-70s, it's safe to say that he's even eviler than that guy too.
You do not belong here! You're fired!
Of course, we can't definitively say if Gru is more vile than some of history's most infamous dictators like Hitler, Stalin, or Mao Zedong, but since he keeps the Minions under his control for the next 38 years, it's probably safe to say that he's done some pretty bad stuff. In fact, this theory suggests that Gru's kill count might be higher than 4 million. So is Gru really that naughty, to put it lightly? Well, it's just a theory, but an interesting one at that. It definitely adds a new layer of complexity to the character and makes you wonder what he's been up to all these years. However, the fact of the matter is that it's hard to imagine the creators thinking that Gru is more despicable, pun intended, than the evilest men in the history of the world. The fact of the matter is that this theory is far more fun, in a way, than it is fact, and we have to mark it as full of holes. Are the Minions mutants? Have you ever watched the movie Minions and wondered if these little yellow creatures are mutants? Me neither, but a theory's been circulating that suggests just that. The idea, given by Reddit user Carvel Tabernula, proposes that the Minions possess unusual traits and abilities that set them apart from typical living beings. Firstly, let's talk about their vulnerability and strength. In one scene, the Minions are subjected to various forms of torture, including a chair of spikes and a wheel of torture, yet they remain unscathed. Even more impressively, Kevin, one of the Minions, becomes gigantic and swallows a large rocket without any harm befalling him. Could this indicate superhuman strength and resilience? Another clue lies in their appearance. The Minions' yellow skin is certainly unusual and raises questions about their origin. Could they be aliens, or perhaps even mutants? It's worth noting that in X-Men, some mutants have distinctive physical features that differentiate them from others. Could this be the case for the Minions as well? Finally, the fact that the Minions have served many bad guys throughout history and seemingly never die suggests that they are a long-lived species. It's unclear if they are truly immortal, but the theory proposes that they're over 1 million years old. All of these observations suggest that the minions may indeed be mutants. Of course, this theory is purely speculative, but it's certainly an interesting one to ponder. However, there is nowhere near enough evidence to back it up, so it's thusly full of holes. With that said, we're now into the middle category, where we may stumble onto some truth. Maybe. These theories are possible. Did the minions serve Tutor? Let's talk about a theory given by Reddit user Lapis Lazuli is the best that suggests that the minions may have served the Tutor monarchy before joining Blackbeard's crew. There are some interesting connections between the minions and Tutor's history. For one thing, Minion was a type of small cannon used during the Tudor era, from 1485 to the late 17th century. The very last time these cannons were used was in 1716, the same year the minions are believed to have joined Blackbeard's crew. Additionally, the golden age of piracy began in the late 17th century, when the use of minion cannons were starting to decline. This could suggest that the minions were seeking out a new line of work after their cannon expertise became less relevant. Furthermore, the minions' main goal is to serve the most despicable master, and there were certainly some Tudor monarchs who would fit that bill. Henry VIII and Mary I, aka Bloody Mary, were not exactly known for their kindness and compassion. Finally, there are hints in the movies that the minions have some sort of connection to the British monarchy. For example, Bob was able to pull Excalibur from the stone, and Kevin accepted a knighthood from the Queen.
Well done.
All of this evidence leads to an intriguing theory that the minions may have served the Tudor monarchy before embarking on their adventures with Blackbeard. While we may never know for sure, it's certainly a possibility that adds an extra layer of depth to the minions' backstory, and so there's enough evidence to say that it's possible. How do you kill a minion? Minions have captured the hearts of audiences worldwide with their lovable antics and adorable language. However, some fans have been left wondering, how do you kill a minion? I know I have. Is there a secret to defeating these little creatures, or are they invincible? One popular theory comes from the YouTube channel Film Theory, which suggests that the minions are single-celled organisms that reproduce asexually. According to this theory, the minions' nucleus, located in their distinctive eye, is the key to their existence. If the nucleus is destroyed, the rest of the minion's body will disintegrate, as the nucleus is responsible for controlling all of the creature's bodily functions. The theory also proposes that the minions' yellow color is a result of their cellular makeup, which includes carotenoids that give them their bright hue. While this idea is certainly imaginative, it's important to remember that it is purely fictional. There's no evidence from the films to support the notion that the minions are single-celled organisms, and this theory is based entirely on fictional characters and their fictional anatomy. Nonetheless, the theory is a testament to the creativity and imagination of its creators, and it provides a fun and engaging discussion topic for fans of the franchise. The popularity of the minions has inspired a wide range of fan theories, artwork, and merchandise, and their quirky language and sometimes lovable personalities continue to delight audiences of all ages. In conclusion, while the theory that minions are single-celled organisms may not be supported by scientific evidence, it is certainly a creative and entertaining idea that demonstrates the enduring appeal of these beloved characters. And the theory isn't a bad one either, so we mark it as possible. These next conspiracies make a lot of sense. In fact, we think they're more likely to be true than not. These theories are probable. Are the minions immortal? The theory that the minions are immortal beings is based on various pieces of evidence from the Despicable Me franchise. The minions have been depicted as surviving extreme situations without suffering any harm, and they seem to have an endless supply of energy and resilience. One piece of evidence that supports this theory is that the minions have been around for centuries. They first appeared in the movie Despicable Me, set in the 1960s, but they're also shown in the prequel Minions, which, for a bit, takes place in the prehistoric era, and in Despicable Me 3, set in present day. This level of longevity suggests that the minions are not subject to the normal aging process and can potentially survive indefinitely. Moreover, the minions have demonstrated a remarkable ability to survive dangerous situations. They've been shown to survive explosions, falls from great heights, and other mishaps that would kill any human being. They seem to have an innate sense of self-preservation, and they always manage to come out unscathed. Another supporting factor is the fact that the minions reproduce asexually, which means they don't have to rely on mating to continue their population. In the movie Minions: Rise of Gru, it's shown that the minions are created in a laboratory, which further suggests their immortality. It's also worth noting that the minions are depicted as being somewhat simplistic and childlike, with a limited understanding of the world around them. This may be a deliberate choice on the part of the creators to emphasize their immortality, as they seem to exist outside of the normal human experience of growth and development. Overall, while the theory that the minions are immortal beings is not confirmed nor explicitly stated within the Despicable Me franchise, there is enough evidence to suggest that they do possess qualities that make them effectively immortal, so this theory is probable. Finally, we've reached the truth, confirmed truth. People have blown the whistle on these theories with such compelling evidence that they must be true. These theories are the truth bombs. Why are there no female minions? There's been a long-standing debate about the gender of the adorable little minions from the Despicable Me franchise. Some people thought they were gender neutral because they wore both male and female clothes, while others believed they were male since they all had male names. The theory is that all minions are male and that there are no female minions.
Yeah! Go, Bob!
Well, it turns out that the creator of Minions, Pierre Coffin, has officially confirmed that they are all male. When asked why he made that decision, Coffin explained that he just couldn't imagine them as anything else. Fair enough, I guess. However, some people are unhappy about this revelation, arguing that it perpetuates gender inequality and sends a negative message to children. One concerned parent wrote on their blog that movies like Minions are teaching a new generation to accept a world where girls are excluded. Okay, well, one burning question remains. If all minions are male, how do they reproduce? A few fan theories are floating around about this, such as the idea that they are turned into minions by a machine cloned from mutated DNA. It's unclear exactly how they came to be, but we may find out more in future movies. Regardless of their gender or reproductive capabilities, one thing is certain: the minions are here to stay. Whether you love them or find them really annoying, they've become an integral part of popular culture, and we can expect to see a lot more of them in the future. This theory is undoubtedly a truth bomb.